Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here. And today I am returning to, relatively young Blu-ray label Radiance Films. I talked about their first release that I received, Big Time Gambling Boss, which is still one of my favorite movies I've seen this year so far, older films. Really great Yakuza film, truly spectacular stuff, and a great first release from Radiance. I have now 3 more of their releases. One is an all-region disc for here in the U.S., and 2 are Region B locked, and I had to import those for my own viewing purposes, and was happy to do so because they're both really interesting films. Okay, so let's start with the Region free disc, and that is a French film called A Woman Kills. And this one is from 1968. It's directed by Jean-Denis Bonan. And it was a, nearly lost film, ultimately, that Radiance has dug out and sort of saved in a way. And so it's exciting that that's definitely seeming to be part of Radiance's MO, is to dig up lesser known films. But the other 2 I'll talk about are certainly known, but they're doing a better job of releasing them than anybody else has, which is also a positive sign for the label. But okay, so Woman Kills, set in Paris in the 1960s. I guess a series of crimes troubles the public tranquility, and in March of 1968, Helene Picard, a prostitute, is sentenced to death 2 years before for several murders. She's sentenced to death for the murders from a couple years prior, is killed by executioner Louise Galbeau. Immediately, the violent crimes similar to Helene's crimes go on again. In parallel, Louis is having an affair with the policewoman in charge of the investigation, and it's sort of a question of what are the relations hidden behind the executioner and the mysterious killer, who is the killer? I'm not going to go into any further sort of explanation of the film, but that's sort of the basics of it. But it is a tough film to classify in some sense. It has some things in line with folks like Jean Rollin, who actually was friends with Jean-Denis Bonan, and who makes a cameo in the film as a cop, and is definitely in line with, the French New Wave films of the 1960s. It's stylish. It has some genre elements, but I wouldn't call it necessarily a genre film. It's not fully a genre film. Very arty, and has no major stars, which is part of the reason it was not distributed at the time it came out. Unfortunately, it did not find its way to getting a straight distribution, and so it got lost. The score is a little bit unsettling and unnerving in parts. It's very interesting. It's a fascinating movie, and one that I'm glad that Radiance has put on my radar and the radars of other folks. They've, of course, included a bevy of nice features with this disc. We have an introduction by Virginie Selavie. It's about 5 minutes, and she talks a lot about the film itself being lost, and she refers to some of the short films which are included here, which I'll talk about in a minute, and the general social unrest that was happening in France and basically all around the world in the 1960s, and how that was sort of the environment from which this film was born. And apparently the director himself was documenting demonstrations in France at the time he was also making A Woman Kills. So there's a lot of context given for the movie, and it's really compact and it's well done. Virginie Selavie is also part of the commentary track that's included here. She and Kat Ellinger team up to do the commentary, and it's a really solid track from them. She makes a wonderful addition and complement to Kat Ellinger. On top of that, we have something called On the Margins, The Cursed Films of Jean-Denis Bonan. It's originally from 2015, but it's sort of been updated in 2022. And so this documentary by Francis Lecomte was produced by Luna Parks Films, who distributed the film, I guess founded in, I want to say it was founded in like 2010, but produced by Luna Parks Films in 2015, and features interviews with the director, Jean-Denis Bonan, cinematographer Gerard de Batista, editor Muriel Abramovici, musician Daniel Lelou, and actress Jackie Reynal. And in 2022, some footage was added by Lecomte for this release. It's 38 minutes long, so it's a very sizable feature. And it's a great feature. I don't know if it was ported over from a previous release, but it sounds like it was, if it was originally from 2022. But of course, it has been updated. I mean, it was originally from 2015. But like I said, updated, so it has new footage in it now. Even if you had that release, this is a different version. But really great to have interviews with so many of those involved, especially the director. And he talks about his shorts and just getting everybody that they talk to here is really nice. So then the short films, which are included, which is really amazing when you can do that. It becomes just a real overview of a filmmaker that, you know, in this case, I'm sure a lot of people haven't heard of and aren't familiar with his work. So it's great to have 5 short films included here. The first one is The Short Life of Monsieur Messieu from 1962, a 13-minute short, and it's his first known amateur short film, and it sort of shows signs and ideas and visual motifs that he would then later use in A Woman Kills. Next is A Crime of Love from 1965. Now, this is an incomplete short. It says it's like the rushes from this short film, but Jean-Denis Bonan narrates sort of the would-be story. It's only about 7 minutes. Then we have Sadness of the Anthropophagi from 1966, his first professional short film. It apparently, I guess, enraged French censors so much that it was completely banned from even being exported from the country. It's a surreal work which takes in religious iconography and the eating of human feces for comedic effect. And by the way, he's beating John Waters to the punch by several years here. Pink Flamingos wouldn't come out until 1971 or whatever, so ahead of his time in terms of feces eating for comic effect. It's no surprise it was controversial, but it's beautifully shot by Gerard de Batista, with bizarre folk-like songs by Daniel Lelou, who also collaborated with the director on A Woman Kills. That's a 24-minute short. Then we have Crazy Mathieu from 1967, and you get to see sort of the director's confidence as a filmmaker increase, and he's exploring many of the techniques that he would later employ in A Woman Kills. It's the tale of Amour Fou, or Mad Love, stars the director himself and Catherine Deville, who would also appear in A Woman Kills. That's a 17-minute short. And A Season with Mankind from 1967, and this is more of a poetic short documentary that was made with images and sounds from news company Les Actualités Françaises. And I guess Bonan was a former news cameraman, so he culled together the unused footage from countries like and including Algeria, France, Senegal, Chad, and Tunisia, and captures life at the time, including religious festivals, children playing, work, and even Salvador Dali. And that's a 19-minute documentary. So that is all the features included on this really wonderful Woman Kills release. And then, of course, another thing to really keep in mind is how great a job out of the gate Radiance is doing with their booklets. This is a really thick booklet and includes, let's see here. Sorry. New writing on the film by Catherine Wheatley, Richard Thomas, Cerise Howard, and interview with Francis Lecomte, reviews and credits. So multiple essays and an interview. It's a nice matte finish book. Really, really nice stuff. So they're doing really cool stuff with the booklets. I know that's very important to a lot of folks. So that is A Woman Kills to start with. Next up we have, now this is a Region B lock disc, Todd Solondz's Welcome to the Dollhouse from 1995. And this one, of course, the story of Dawn Wiener, who I guess is a some would say less than attractive 7th grader. I think she's delightful, who's struggling to cope with suburban life as the middle child with inattentive parents and bullies at school. She has a younger sister who's supposedly adorable but really obnoxious, and an older brother who's very cynical and nerdy and dealing with some tough times at school. I'm not going to go too much into the details of Welcome to the Dollhouse in terms of the plot, because it's one that will either resonate or won't, but some would say it was a little rough at the time to watch, but others would say it's maybe not harsh enough, because there are some harsh moments within it, in terms of the story, and there's also some stories that come up later with both Todd Solondz and Heather Matarazzo, who stars as Dawn Wiener, with people sort of approaching the film as both a comedy and or a tragic drama, and it sort of contains elements of both. It could be seen as both. I guess it just sort of depends on your point of view and where you are in your life in terms of your own trauma. But it was a real big sensation in 1995, really blew up at the Sundance Film Festival, I think, and is just one of those things that really launched Solondz, despite it not being his first film. His first film is called Fear, Anxiety, and Depression, which is apparently not a great experience making that film, and I would assume that's part of the reason we haven't seen much of a release for that one. I'm hoping that he may get past that at some point and allow some kind of a Blu-ray of it, but maybe it's so compromised he can never have that happen. But it's an interesting film, if flawed, for sure, and stars Solondz himself in a very Woody Allen-esque sort of performance. But I mean, he's sort of just himself, ultimately, maybe. Anyway, the features on this are very nice. Now, this has come out on Blu-ray in the States from Sony Pictures Classics, but didn't have any features that I recall, and may even have been made on demand. But of course, as an indicator of the kind of stuff that Radiance will be doing and has done, they've done a nice job of including some exclusive features here. Again, this is Region B locked. You would need a multi-region player to play it, but you have a Todd Solondz interview that's 16 minutes, and that's filmed exclusively for the Radiance release in September 2022. And really neat to see him talk about this movie. He talks about the making of the film. He mentions it being a response to the TV show The Wonder Years. He talks about casting, working with Heather Matarazzo, working with kids in general, how he believes the material is both funny and emotionally difficult. He's got a lot to say, and it's, again, really welcome to hear him talk about it. I haven't seen a lot of interviews with him since the 90s, so this was cool to see him reflecting on the film in 2022. Next up is a Heather Matarazzo interview. It's 22 minutes, also exclusively recorded for Radiance Films in September 2022, and she talks about how she found her way into acting. She's got a really great story about that, and getting involved with this project specifically, as well as her memories of working on the film, also how she gets stopped by some people who think the film is a comedy and some who think it's a heartbreaking, tragic drama, as I mentioned before. But she's got a lot to say about this, and it's great to see her interviewed and reflecting on this film, which is obviously a huge deal to her and her career, really launched her as well at the time. Then we have Todd Solondz's Suburban Nightmare, a 15-minute newly recorded visual essay by critic and author Hannah Strong that looks at Welcome to the Dollhouse and its place in Solondz's work. And then, of course, there is a commentary by BJ and Harmony Colangelo, who are co-hosts of the podcast This Ends at Prom, which focuses on coming-of-age films and analyzes movies that are about and marketed towards teen girl audiences, and they seem a good fit for this commentary track. Now, this also has a booklet essay, as I mentioned, and it has they all have reversible artwork too, so this has like a reversible different version of Dawn Wiener on the cover. It came with like a little bookmarky thing that was outside the package when I ordered it, which is kind of cool. Little doodles on it, that are, flashing back to the feature itself. This one, 48-page booklet featuring new writing by critics A.S. Hamra and Molly Lambert, archival writing by Solons and Julia Murfitt, and an overview of contemporary reviews. Again, a really nice matte booklet here. Really well done and thick. Okay, so that is Welcome to the Dollhouse, one of two that I picked up from overseas. The second would be Miami Blues, George Armitage's film from 1990. Now, this one has also had a release previous to this, Shout Factory in 2015, and then even more recently, an MVD release. And we'll make some comparisons here, but this is the one that wins out, I think, in terms of the features. But this one is about a criminal pretending to be a cop, played by Alec Baldwin, and one of his best performances. Film also stars Jennifer Jason Leigh, Fred Ward, and others. And it's about this guy named Fred Frenger. I don't know if they were... Fred, when he gets out of prison, he decides to start over in Miami, and he starts a violent one-man crime wave, and soon ends up with an amiable college student in tow. Opposing him is Sergeant Hoke Mosley. That's Fred Ward, who is sort of an ongoing character in the works of Charles Willeford, which this movie is based on, crime fiction writer Charles Willeford. So Hoke Mosley is a cop who is getting a bit old for his job, a bit long in the tooth, as it were. But it's, again, a great performance by Alec Baldwin. He is straight up sociopath nuts and unpredictable and charismatic and really interesting. And Jennifer Jason Leigh, a bit more naive in this role, and she really plays it well, and they play off each other really well. And Fred Ward's great too. But like I said, this one has had a release before. This was, I think, Baldwin's first lead role. He makes reference to that in one of the interviews. Now, this includes the Alec Baldwin and Jennifer Jason Leigh interviews, filmed originally in 2015 for the Shout Factory Blu-ray. These are two separate interviews intercut. It's 26 minutes total, and they're both great, both talking about the film and their memories of getting involved with it and memories of working on it. And this interview, or double interview, is included on the MVD release as well. But what's not included are about 23 minutes of other stuff, and the booklet, of course. We have a new David Jenkins interview. This is 12 minutes, and this is writer and author David Jenkins providing an appreciation of Miami Blues and examining the film itself, as well as Jonathan Demme's role in the production. He was a producer, I think. Obviously, George Armitage would make the movie, but you can feel Demme's hand in it. It feels like a Demme kind of movie, which I've always loved about it. So that's a great feature. That's filmed exclusively for Radiance in October of 2022. And then Maxim Jakubowski interview, which is 11 minutes, and he's a writer and crime fiction expert that looks at the source novel for Miami Blues from Charles Willeford. And he talks about Willeford's life and work, the character of Hoke Mosley, and the adaptation of the book to the film, also exclusively for Radiance in October 2022. So that's pretty cool. Again, you have alternate artwork, which is very much the original artwork you see on a lot of the Blu-rays. And then this booklet, which features new writing by Glenn Kenny and Layla Latif, archival interview by Nick Pinkerton, feature on Fred Ward, and overview of reviews. So lots of great stuff in this. And again, it's just a really well made booklet, just a really well put together, nice matte finish booklet. So that will do it for these 3 new Radiance film releases. Again, I do recommend checking them out. And Big Time Gambling Boss, definitely worth your time. So there's definitely more stuff coming from Radiance in the future. They've got a whole slate of stuff coming, including a new Yakuza film, I think. So that's going to be interesting when that comes out. But anyway, this has been Just the Dis. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And check out Radiance Films at their website and their socials for upcoming announcements. Thanks again. Bye-bye.